Number 10. Diplomat Hotel, Philippines. The Dominican Hill Retreat House was built in 1913 in the famed Philippine city of Pines. With the outbreak of World War II, it became a camp for refugees escaping the Japanese army, but it was eventually invaded. It was once occupied by refugees, nuns, and soldiers, but was bombed by the American armed forces. People were taken advantage of and had their heads cut off. In the 1970s, the Wharton building was converted to the sophisticated and beautiful Diplomat Hotel, but the hotel was shut down by the 80s and left abandoned. The deserted, deteriorating building became infamous for being one of the most haunted ruins in the country. Currently, the old hotel is now under new rehabilitation by the national government as a heritage and nature park. Now, many people see headless apparitions at night and report hearing screams, cries, banging on doors, and other strange and desperate noises. Some believe the building is haunted by the restless spirit of its grim history. It's considered by ghost believers to be a ghost magnet due to all the tragedy that took place. Number 9. Ryong Hotel, North Korea. Often regarded as the ugliest building in the world, which I can agree with, the Ryong Hotel is a 180-story structure, Pyongyang. The hotel construction started in 1987 and stopped in 1993, and it seems unlikely that it will ever be finished as a functioning hotel. The building consists of 3,000 suites and 5 revolving restaurants, at least as it was planned. Currently, it sits at the heart of the city as a concrete shell, but its massive size, aka 1,082 feet, makes it difficult to ignore as it dominates the skyline. But if you speak to anyone who lives in the city, they deny that it exists, even though it's clearly there. Tourists traveling by taxi have found it impossible to use the hotel as a landmark because no one admits that the building is there. It's even airbrushed out of official photographs. Now, even if it is ever finished, who is supposed to stay there? Even ignoring the low wages of the average North Korean, there's no real tourism industry to speak of, so it's just strange. It just sits in the middle of the city, abandoned. Number 8. Royal Hotel, Australia. On Adelaide Street in the city of Birdsville, Australia, you'll find the ruins of what was once the Royal Hotel, built in 1883. Very fast, it became as important as most of the buildings in the town, reflecting the relations of the town with the entire main and south parts of Australia. But Birdsville is well known for its dust storms, the scorching heat in the summer, and its loneliness, writes Rita's Outback Guide. Due to this, the Royal operated as a hotel for only 40 years. The fate of the hotel changed in 1923 when it was taken over by a Presbyterian mission and converted into a bush nursing home. Australian Inland Mission used the building for 5 years, offering its services to people in need, and then when the mission left, the town's population dwindled, and in 2016 the population was a mere 140 people, and the building was left to deteriorate. At the very end of the 20th century, there were some restoration works and promises of revival, however, nothing happened. The building in its poor state still stands today, and it's a popular tourist attraction, mostly due to its historic character and value, and much less about its state of being.
Coming in at number 7, we have the rustic carriage house. Came alone but woke up with someone or something else sleeping next to you? Sure, you may have had too many pints at ye olde local inn, or you might be experiencing one of the rustic carriage house's frequent hauntings. The house is located in Charleston and dates back to 1843, although the history of the area goes back a lot further. In one of the grand house's room 8 as it's known, there is said to be a headless ghost that haunts the space. One self-confessed skeptic says that he woke up one night in 1993 to see a headless torso in bed with him. When he moved, he says that the ghost growled at him. Those who rent the room suspect that the headless ghost was a Civil War soldier who met the wrong end of a gun in the area. Another ghost haunts room 10 and is another spectral bedfellow. Blimey. The ghost of room 10 is supposed to be a rather forward gentleman who likes to climb in bed with women. The ghost has garnered the nickname the Gentleman's Ghost. Now, while I wouldn't say that climbing into bed with unknown women is very gentlemanly, apparently Chappy Boy disappears through what was once a door in the room when a lady wakes and protests. Protest is just a nicer word for screams, right? If I woke up and saw a ghost in my bed, I would be screaming. So yeah, ladies who are lonesome or people that like headless soldiers, the rustic carriage house is for you. Coming in at number 6, we have Captain Grant's home. I love a good captain. So for around $180 a night, you can stay in ye olde building dating back to 1754. Captain Grant's is located in the historic area of the Connecticut Mystic Coast and Country. Of course, a building that is that old is bound to have seen some action over its years. Apparently, the Adelaide Room is the most haunted. A review of the property said that the historic inn is also home to a sweet black cat called Molly that keeps the spirits happy when no one's staying there. Is it the house that's haunted, or are the spirits drifting in from 2 nearby cemeteries? Who knows? One guest even wrote that they put out children's toys in their room for the children ghosts to play with. That's very thoughtful, but also very, very creepy. Coming into number 5, we have the Taliston Estate. Okay, this room could not look any more haunted if it tried. The listing says that the room is decorated in Scottish Art Nouveau style and recreates in nightmarish detail the bedchamber of a 7-year-old Edwardian child. The listing says it comes complete with books, toys, and ephemera. There's even a crucifix above the bed, which really freaks me out. Why? Why? It may boast the looks, but does this room come packing the spirit? And the answer is maybe. The room certainly looks like the spookiest around, but it may not actually be boasting a ghost. The home is an ex-council house in Dunmow, Essex, and has been renovated to astonishing detail. The bedroom matches a Scottish Edwardian dining hall downstairs, but the home also has a Cambodian treehouse room, a Moorish bedroom, a 1915s New Orleans kitchen, and much more. It certainly looks spooky, and with the amount of money homeowner John has spent on transforming the property, I can only imagine he could manufacture a simulated ghost to add a bit of an atmosphere. Okay, so this is my favourite on the list, and I'd love to stay here. We have the Talinga Ghost Town. I love the look of this property. For me, this would feel like sleeping on a film set, but actually, it is the ruin of a genuine ghost town. That's even cooler, but kind of scary. The ghost town of Terralinga is an old mining district in Texas on the border between the USA and Mexico. The house is a stacked limestone cabin, and the porch offers incredible views of mountains and the Badlands. The property is very remote and doesn't have any internet, which makes it even scarier for the modern day traveler. There are for sure going to be some ghosts of old miners clanging around the abandoned mines at night, peeping in windows trying to get home. I think it would be incredible to spend the night here, but you would need your wits about you for sure. Okay, I don't like the sound of this name at all. Coming into number 3, we have the Madness Chamber. We have a lot of ghosts knocking around the British Isles, especially in places like York, a walled city in the north of England that dates back to ancient Roman times. That city has seen it all and was instrumental throughout the Tudor era. This property dates back 600 years to a more bloodthirsty era and has a room called the Madness Chamber. Would you want to stay in the Madness Chamber? I'm really not sure that I would. The owners say that they've had people walk into their property, which costs £120 a night, and they've straight up said they don't like the energy and they've turned around and left. According to news coverage, the property is the most haunted in the UK. There's even a beware of the ghost sign above the fireplace, as well as a legit ghost detector in the building. Apparently the ghost of the Madness Chamber has long dark hair and wears a cap. He also seems to like peering over shoulders. I have to say that the creepiest thing for me about the Madness Chamber is the taxidermy bats. Like, keep those away from me, please. We have some good old-fashioned heartbreak at number 2. This is Castello dal Pazzo. This incredible 8-bedroom property comes with a pretty hefty price tag. For over $4,000 a night, guests can stay in the Italian Castello perched on a hill. The property is romantically gothic, the kind of place you can imagine Dracula drawing you into his thrall and biting you. The ghost that stalks the beautiful grounds is called the Lady in Waiting and is indeed said to have been broken-hearted. The girl was thought to have been called Barbara, and she supposedly died of a broken heart in 1467 when she waited for her love to return to her. Unfortunately, he never did, and it is said that at night it is still possible to hear her sighs and wails of heartbroken despair coming from the tower. Okay, we're at number 1, and there is uncontrollable screaming and dead children ghosts, which for me isn't great. We have the Grand Midway Hotel. The derelict Grand Midway Hotel in Pittsburgh was bought for just $11,000 in 2001. Since then, owner Blair Murphy has been working to restore the 130-year-old haunted building, and now 2 of its rooms have been listed on Airbnb, the Traveler's Suite and the reassuringly named Vampire Suite. Speaking of the ghostly activity, Murphy said, for years this place had creepy stuff. Not like terrifying, but just like weird stuff. You could be in a room and say something might happen, like something falls over and it seems like it's answering you. Murphy said one of the ghosts is called Squidlana and likes to pinch people. One guest was so scared of the ghostly activity, the police were called. The guest reportedly would not stop screaming. Murphy said the screaming went on and on, so everyone ran upstairs to the 3rd floor and she was on the floor. She just lost all control of her body and she was out of it screaming. She said later that she had touched the lamp and she had zapped her finger. Then she turned and saw what looked like a little dead child screaming at her. Okay, so that really isn't for me. Also, if you want to chat to the ghosts, no worries, Murphy has even painted an Ouija board on the roof so guests can contact spirits if they want to.
At number 10, we have a bunch of heads. After this kind of experience, I wouldn't be surprised if you quit your job cleaning hotel rooms and move to another country and start your passion project of selling watercolor paintings. Sounds much nicer than what we have going on here. This story was written on Reddit by Reddit user The Lock. He said that he ran into a maid in a hotel that was distraught. She was running down the halls screaming and crying. Now maybe she just walked in on a couple having sex and it scared her little eyeballs. But it turns out that it was much worse than two people just bumping uglies. It was a bathtub that was fully loaded with human heads. But you can guess what happened next. They called the police and the dude who was staying in the room was arrested. But get this, the guy never ended up going to jail. How can you have 10 heads in a bathtub and just walk away without even a slap on the wrist? Apparently this guy worked for a cadaver lab. He was transporting the heads and left them in the tub to thaw. So next time you take a bath in a hotel, remember that bath might have been used to thaw out some human heads. That's disgusting. At number 9 we have peekaboo. The relationships we have with hotel workers and ourselves are built on trust. We just trust each other to not do anything weird. And it's moments like these that make it hard to trust the hotel staff. A couple in Mexico was staying at a resort and they noticed something strange in their hotel room. There was a large hole in the bathroom, a hole about the size of a quarter, maybe a little bit bigger than that. They called the front desk who went to investigate. It shouldn't have been anything weird, right? Well, that's when they found out that the hole led to a maintenance room where a camera had been set up who was filming everyone who went to the bathroom there. Someone had been spying on people in their bathroom and recording it for who knows how long. They quickly switched rooms and then who knows what happened from there. I have no idea if the peeping Tom was ever caught. At number 8 we have guns. Jim Angleton probably wanted a very secure place to spend the night, but I don't think he thought that would ever mean getting a firearm fully loaded and left in his room. I think if you want to have a gun in your room, you're just gonna bring your own gun. You don't need someone else's gun floating around. You don't know if it works well or if it was recently used in a crime. Well, it didn't matter if that's what he wanted because that's what he got. He was staying at a hotel and everything seemed nice and prepped for him. But when he laid down on the bed, it seemed like something hard was under the pillow, and then he lifted up the pillow and surprise, there was a fully loaded handgun with the safety off just chilling underneath the pillow. Thank God it didn't go off. If it shot him but it didn't kill him, he would have this strange fear of pillows for the rest of his life. And then if it did kill him, his friends and family would have to hear the story of how he got killed by a pillow. Not exactly the most manly way to die. Well, he told the front desk who quickly came to take care of the problem, and because of this crazy mishap he got upgraded to a nice room. Not too shabby. If I knew that's how this worked, I would just start planting guns in every place I stayed. Which actually might end up being more expensive. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I wouldn't. I don't know what the math on that is.
Number 7. The Ben Moore Hotel, Alabama. The Ben Moore Hotel opened its doors in 1945 and has a rich history. In 1951, it became the first hotel in Montgomery, Alabama to welcome African Americans as guests. It quickly became an important meeting spot between representatives of the black and white populations of Montgomery during the dawn of the Civil Rights era and played to host music icons including Tina Turner and B.B. King. But over the years, hard times, and scandals, it set on a course towards despair. What was the scandal? Well, this place became a regular meeting spot for Martin Luther King Jr. and the Reverend Ralph Althberny and other civil rights leaders. The owner was Edward Davis Sr., and according to Montgomery Advertiser Archives, Edward was arrested after 2 patrol officers witnessed him throw a hatchet and hit the Reverend in the back. Edward accused him of carrying on an affair with his wife, the Reverend told the police. The minister's shirt was slashed and he was cut slightly several times Times late Friday. His injuries were not serious, the August 1958 article said. The building sits now long abandoned, waiting for someone to come up with a plan to restore it, as money has always seemed to be the halting factor. Number 6. Haludovo Palace Hotel, Croatia. Another ruin in what was formerly Yugoslavia, the Haludovo Palace Hotel in what is now Croatia was once a high-end resort. Haludovo was built in 1971. Bogucione, founder of the Penthouse magazine, invested $45 million in the project and officially opened the Penthouse Adriatic Club Casino located in the hotel in 1972. However, the casino went bankrupt and the following year it was closed. During the Yugoslav Wars, the hotel became a shelter for refugees. In 1995, the hotel was privatized and went through a number of owners. It hosted its last guests in 2001. Today, the hotel resort is abandoned with the interior effectively destroyed while the buildings remain intact. Number 5. Coco Palms Resort, Hawaii. Now, the last place in the world you would expect to discover ghostly resorts would be in Hawaii, but the Coco Palms Resort is one creepy abandoned hotel that cannot be ignored. This hotel was once a prime spot for Hollywood movie stars and even appeared in the Elvis Presley film Blue Hawaii. Now, the resort includes or is near to many cultural significant spots and the sites of some of the most important legends and historical events for Native Hawaiians. Now, everything was great until Coco Palms was destroyed by Hurricane Iniki in 1992. Then on July 4th, 2014, the resort caught on fire. Thankfully, no one was injured and the fire was controlled by early afternoon. In 2016, Honolulu developers Green Waters LLC formed a partnership with Coco Palms to restore the resort. Their intent was to reopen Coco Palms as part of Hyatt's Unbound collection, but in 2019, the project collapsed. Number 4. El Hotel de Salto, Colombia. In San Antonio del Tequendama, Colombia, a 1920s residential mansion was constructed looking over the falls. For 60 years, it operated as a hotel. It was built in 1923 as a luxury hotel to host elite travelers visiting the area. Ordered and built by the President of Colombia and designed by the architect Carlos Otero Tapias, the hotel was a place for the richest to gather and indulge in the most exceptional experiences. It was meant to be renovated in the 1950s, but due to pollution from the Bottega River, the project was dismissed. In the 1970s, sewage started affecting the river, so the hotel closed in the early 1990s as a result of the overwhelming pollution of the river. Some reports state that it's the second most polluted river worldwide, as the river is full of feces, waste, chemicals, and many other toxic things. Now, over the years, the hotel began to deteriorate until it was left deserted altogether. Today, the hotel is said to be haunted. Now, this is owing to the fact that many people have used its location as a place to end their lives. It's also said that the Muisca Indians used to jump into the falls to evade capture from Spanish conquerors. The myth is that those who would jump would turn into eagles and soar to freedom, and sadly this appealed to most wanderers who would then leap to their death. Number 3. Decor Palace Hotel, Liberia. The 120-room Decor Palace Hotel opened in 1960, was designed and built by Israeli industrialist Moshe Mayer. It was the first international class hotel in Liberia and was for many years one of the few 5-star hotels in all of Africa. The prestigious hotel was closed in the 80s when the political situation became too unstable. With political uncertainty looming, the Decor Hotel closed in 1989, just before the coup led by Charles Taylor, which ousted President Samuel Doe and marked the beginning of the First Liberian Civil War. The building endured much damage during this period due to both the violence of the war and to the post-war looting. Much of the hotel was damaged during the Civil War that followed and the very poor families that took the opportunity there to settle. In 2007, the Ministry of Justice evicted the squatters residing in the hotel. In 2008, the government of Liberia signed a lease agreement with the government of Liba to begin clearing the property of debris in 2010. The building sits on Decor Hill, the highest point of the city, overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, the St. Paul River, and Monrovia's West Point district, but it is now forbidden to visit. Number 2. Lee Plaza, Michigan. Lee Plaza is a 15-story building that was built in 1929. It was built for tourists to stay as long as possible, as the owner had thought of everything: hairdresser, library, shops, and everything was decorated with the finest paintings and marbles. But over the years, it changed owners several times opened and began to grow old with permanent tenants in the 70s and 80s. It closed its doors down in 1997 after the death of a resident. An 84-year-old resident was found dead in her room, suffocated with a pillow. As you would assume, many people left after this, resulting in the building closing. It was to be demolished but was classified as a historic monument thanks to its architecture and its history. It was added to the United States National Register of Historic Places on November 5th, 1981. And coming in at number 1 is Hotel Baker, Texas. The story of Baker Hotel began in 1922 when citizens of Mineral Wells, concerned that non-citizens were profiting from the growing fame of the community's mineral water, raised $150,000 in an effort to build a large hotel facility owned by local shareholders. Hotel Baker was one of the most ambitious hotel projects in the booming seaside region. It was the first hotel in Texas to be equipped with an Olympic pool that could accommodate up to 2,500 people. It could also house 450 guest rooms, 2 ballrooms, an in-house beauty shop, and all other novelties such as a bowling alley, a gymnasium, and an outdoor swimming pool. Now, despite the stock market crash of 1929 and the enormous difficulties in the 30s, it held the shock until the end of World War II, before the owner did not put the key under the door in 1963. After a brief reopening in 1965 and a succession of owners, the hotel again closed its doors in 1972, and this time permanently. The owner shut down the building on April 30th, 1963. The hotel reopened 2 years later in 1965 when a group of local investors leased the structure from the Baker family, but the revival was brief. In 1972, the Baker closed its doors for the last time. Although several groups have made offers to rehabilitate the structure, the building remained abandoned until 2019, when it was announced that the Baker Hotel would finally be renovated and restored, but who knows when and if it will really get restored.
First up in our number 10 spot is the Terralinga Casita. So it's one thing to stay in a haunted room, and it's another thing entirely to stay in a house that's in a full-on ghost town. But if that sounds like your kind of thing, then this haunted casita might just be the best place for your next paranormal girls trip. Back in the 1800s, Terralinga, Texas was once a thriving mining community known for its production of mercury. However, as the demand for mercury declined in the early 1900s, the town's prosperity dwindled and most of the population moved away. By the mid-20th century, Terralinga was mostly abandoned, leaving behind a ghost town with only a few remaining structures. But it's not just abandoned, it's also believed to be haunted by many of its former residents. So if you are looking for a haunted visit, a limestone cabin near an old jail and a graveyard is a good bet to run into some spooky spirits. Just be careful, as you never know which spirits can wander in and watch you while you sleep. Moving on to number 9, Laura's house. Despite there being no formal mention of an unearthly presence in the Airbnb listing for Laura's Cottage, it's widely known that this historic residence in downtown Savannah, Georgia is haunted by an unseen entity. Built in 1799, the cottage is named after its eternal guest, Laura, who truthfully we don't really know much about other than the fact that she haunts the cottage and grew the beautiful flowers that still adorn the cottage grounds. Now, aside from it being an Airbnb hotspot for paranormal enthusiasts, the home is frequently featured on walking ghost tours of the city, and guests have claimed that Laura, the ghost, was very active during their stay. Thankfully, while she isn't shy, Laura seems to be friendly to most, although a young mother who stayed in the cottage reported that Laura threw a deck of cards off the table in her direction and it totally freaked her out. So I guess just maybe make sure you stay on her good side. Moving on to number 8, Taliston House. Located in Great Dunmow, UK, the haunted bedroom at the Taliston is sure to be an unforgettable stay. As soon as you step into the haunted bedroom at Taliston, you're transported back into the early 1900s, and the owner has worked tirelessly to replicate the room of a young Edwardian child, complete with books and toys of the time. But why is that the vibe they are going for? Well, aside from young ghosts being the scariest ones in horror movies, it's rumored that a boy used to live in this room and complained of hearing lots of unsettling sounds every evening. Sadly, he suddenly died, and in their grief, his parents sealed up the room out of fear that their son and whatever it was he heard would haunt them. Fast forward 100 years or so, and the room was reopened when the house's current owner moved in and decided to renovate it. But it's said the boy really does haunt the room, and guests who have stayed say they have experienced very strange occurrences during their stay.
At number 7 we have how many feet do you have? It's normal to leave a little bit of a mess behind when you stay at a hotel, but you don't want to be a complete slob because you know someone has to come and clean it up after, because we're still trying to be a civil human being. You don't want to treat your cleaning staff like that, that's just rude. But this story is just crazy. Redditor Pool with No Ladder used to work at the front desk of a hotel, and he would get to hear all the crazy stories the cleaners would come back with. One day he said that there was a room that was covered in toenails. 2 people have been staying there for a weekend, so even if they cut all their fingernails and their toenails, there should be only 40 nails maximum. But the cleaners said that there were hundreds of them scattered everywhere, like to the point where if you tiptoed through the room, you would get stabbed with a little nail in your toe. It's so gross. How does that even end up happening? They went in there with like a bag of toenails and just started throwing it all over the room? This is disgusting. At number 6 we have I feel 10 pounds lighter. Now some people have conditions that cause their bodies to act in weird ways, like having really bad dry skin. Now there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't think you would want to be the person who was in charge of cleaning the tub after they gave themselves a little bit of a scrub down and all their loose skin was floating around. A cleaning person at the Hilton Hotel came to find a tub that had something strange going on. All over the dead sides was a ton of dead skin, like enough to fill a Ziploc bag. An elderly man had just been staying there, and I guess he decided this was the best time to give himself a deep clean. The girl who was supposed to clean the room gagged and ran out, and I didn't get details as to whether or not she came back to finish the job. I know, I wouldn't have. At number 5 we have that's not what that's for. Redditor user Arlie77 had a very strange thing happen to her when she was staying at a Hilton. I don't know if you can even blame the cleaning staff for this one, because who thinks about cleaning the ice tray? But Arlie77 went to make some ice with the ice tray, and when she found the ice tray it was already full, but there wasn't water in it, there was human poop. Someone was trying to make poopsicles out of their own dung. For what purpose? I will never know. Maybe you need to keep your toilet water cold? This would make me never trust anything in a hotel room again. Oh my god, it's disgusting. At number 4 we have we're in the middle of something. Please, whatever you do, knock before you come into any room. Frankly, even your own room. You never know if there's going to be something creepy going on in there. This Reddit user deleted their account so I couldn't get their name, but they did say that they used to work as a bellboy and they would have to deliver room service from time to time to different rooms. One night a room ordered 4 bottles of champagne. They must have been celebrating something. Well, it looks like they were celebrating a rap party because the people in there were in the middle of shooting a porno when he opened the door. They were probably like, hey kid, put the champagne down on the table. And have you ever thought about being on camera? At number 3 we have party room. You walk into your hotel room and the first thing you think is, oh my god, what happened in here? This is horrible. And then the second thing you think is, oh, someone had a really good time. Redditor Goddess, and that's Goddess spelled 2 big G's, a little O, 2 big D's, a little E, and then 2 big S's, left a story behind on why she quit her job in the hospitality industry. She was working as a hotel cleaner and walked into a room that looked like it was the most insane party of all time. Let's go down the list of things that were all over the room. Condoms filled with semen everywhere, stains all over every part of the room, mystery stains as well as blood smears on the wall like identifiable stains, crack pipes and heroin needles all over the place, and to top it off there was a bunch of puke on the walls, puke around the toilet, puke on the floor, and the biggest mystery was how puke got on the ceiling. How does that even happen? Did someone perform an exorcism in this room? Well, she got the front desk to call the police, and the crazy thing is, after the cops left, the people she worked for still wanted her to clean the room, and so she did the smart thing and quit her job. No one should force you. Heroin needles, you don't clean that up. At number 2 we have signs of escape. People using sleazy hotels as a way to traffic humans isn't just a thing people throw into low budget movies as a trope, it's actually something that happens in real life. There was a flight attendant who was forced to stay at a crummy hotel because a flight she was supposed to work on got delayed due to snow. This wasn't super uncommon, but she noticed something strange about the room. room. There was markings all over the door next to the lock. She realized someone had drilled a lock into the door so it could be sealed from the outside. There was also scratches all over the radiator like something metal had been rubbing against it, like someone had been chained to it. She called the front desk, who then called the police, but it turns out the person who was staying there gave fake information and they couldn't be tracked down. That is very terrifying. And for the #1 spot we have I Left a Present For You. The Redditor Broadway Rocks has taken the cake on this one. She used to work in a hotel where a family had been staying for a month. Their house had burned down, so they had nowhere to go, and you want to feel bad for them, but they were absolutely awful to the staff, yelling at them, and the father would constantly hit on all the female employees, like super gross. One day they left to go visit friends, and the hotel staff saw this as an opportunity to clean their suite because they were never allowed to go inside there. When they walked in, there was a horrible smell, and after further inspection they found that someone had taken a poop in the microwave and was running it, like they were heating the poo to get the poo smell everywhere. Someone was trying to cook a poop in that place. Then they opened the fridge and they found more turds. There was turds in the drawers of the fridge. On top of that, they had jars of leeches for some unknown reason. These people were removed from the hotel and then charged an immense fee for the amount of damage they did and pooping in the microwave. Alright everyone, that has been our list, and as promised we are going to do some more pet shoutouts. Remember, if you want me to shout out your pet, you can hit me up on Instagram. I pick new pictures of pets every day, so if you don't get picked one day, you can message back another day. If it takes me a little while to get back to you, I am very sorry. I have a lot of these to do, and without taking any longer, let's shout out some pets. First off, we have Zaya, Nanook, and Arrow. These 3 good girls looking so ready to party. Party dogs, I love it. Then we have a close-up shot of this doggo who is thinking deep thoughts, I can tell. Then we got a couple of good boys. Look at how proud they are. They just got like sitting all up like, oh, just a proud dog. You can always tell they're like, yeah, I'm the boss, I'm the best. After that, we have the cutest melt your heart picture of all time. That is Mocha. Look at her. You can't look at her and not fall in love. I've done the math on this. It's actually impossible. Then we have Misty, who is so excited. Look at how excited she is for life. She has that big smile like, looking up all cheered up and everything. So good. And to cap it off, we have Gizmo, who is chilling so hard and having the best nap of all time.
Starting us off at number 10 is the Halloween party. Now this one went so wrong, I don't even know where to begin. Back in November of last year, an Airbnb was rented out in Orinda, California for a Halloween party. The mansion Halloween party was advertised on social media, so around 100 people showed up, so it was crowded as hell. The Airbnb listing had explicitly banned house parties as well as drugs. Now the house's owner, Michael Wang, said the girl who rented out the house said she wanted to host a family reunion for about a dozen people, but when he looked at the security footage, there was a lot more than 12 people there. You got played, Michael. The party's DJ Omar Taylor had invited his friend Tiara Chambers, who is no stranger to danger. She recalled telling a group of underage teens that if they saw people run, just to run with them. Within a few hours of the party, gunshots rang out and Tiara ran into the bathroom with 6 other people, and all they could hear was things like, I'm shot, he's dead, she's not breathing. When it was all over, Omar had been killed along with 4 other party goers. No one goes to a Halloween party thinking that's gonna happen, but then again, it was a lot of random people coming together, and you really don't know what kind of people social media attracts. Like, that is quite a horrible thing to happen. Coming in at number 9 is Locked. Back in July of 2015, Michaela Giles' phone starts going off with calls from her 19-year-old son Jacob, who was on holiday in Madrid and staying at an Airbnb. Jacob claimed his host had locked both of them inside the apartment and removed the key. The host is rattling knives in the kitchen and forcing Jacob into a sexual act. Airbnb would not give Michaela the address, and they didn't call the police for her either. According to Jacob, he'd met his male to female trans host near a subway station by her house. As soon as they got inside, Jacob said she kept trying to kiss him and told him to take his pants off, and that if he didn't do it, she would kick him out onto the streets. Then the whole knives rattling in the kitchen thing happened, and Jacob was like, okay, either she's gonna kill me or me her. He eventually persuaded her to let him out, saying he had friends he had to meet up with who would know something was wrong if he didn't show up. After he finally got home to Massachusetts, he claimed he was sexually assaulted and went into trauma therapy. The host, on the other hand, rebuffed all the allegations, claiming the act was consensual, there was no threatening going on, and that Jacob was simply transphobic. I don't know the truth to the story, so I don't know who's lying and who's telling the truth. At number 8, we have the Junkie Den. Back in September of 2016, Sydney-based Airbnb host Holly rented out her own apartment for 10 days, hoping to pay off some of her credit card debt. Oh, it'd be like that, Holly, it'd be like that. It's just, you just can't pay it off, it's just just keeps piling up, you know what I mean? Anyway, the guest was a woman called Michelle who told Holly she had a sick child who was at Sydney Children's Hospital and she just needed a nearby place to stay in. As Holly was an Airbnb newbie, she decked out her apartment and bought some new furniture for it, but the whole thing was futile. After Michelle had checked out, Holly went to her home to see it turn into a junkie den. The place had been trashed and stank like chemicals, which they later found out from police was heroin or ice. Michelle had obviously had more people in the house with her and they had gone to town in there. Fruit had been thrown at the wall, crack pipes were left everywhere, and their smoke alarm had been covered so they can smoke inside. Used cigarettes were all over the floor and in the cupboards, ashes all over the $2,000 rug, and their towels, lamps, cushions, speakers, and bed sheets had all been stolen. There was blood over some of the towels as well, and the damage came up to more than $10,000 as she became homeless while the damage was being repaired. The disrespect of letting someone into your home and then them doing that to it is just disgusting and beyond me.
Next we have the Mermaid Inn in East Sussex. This historical building was built at some time in the 12th or 13th centuries. With a building that old, it's no surprise people say it's haunted. Gotta say, it'd be pretty incredible to stay in a place like this. This place has quite the history. It was originally frequented mostly by medieval sailors. From 1420 to 1770, it was a bar and an inn which was frequently visited by the Hawkhurst Gang, a group of privateers who terrorized the area. The Mermaid Inn saw a number of deaths at the hands of these criminals over the years, some of which had been attempting to snitch on them. One of the leaders, Thomas Kingsmill, who was executed in 1749 for his crimes, is said to haunt the inn till this very day. The inn was eventually reopened in 1993, and guests have reported seeing a ghostly figure of a woman in white standing at the front of their bed when they wake up. There's also the spirit of a maid who died at the hands of a smuggler in room 5, which has been reportedly haunted well before the modern era. And of course you have Thomas Kingsmill himself, who supposedly haunts a rocking chair in room 17. At number 6 we have the Mizpah Hotel in Nevada. This hotel opened in 1904 and was one of the first luxury hotels built in the state. It's a really nice looking hotel with Victorian era decor. I imagine it looks almost exactly as it did in the 1900s. As luxurious as this place is though, there's a dark piece of history that still lingers within the walls of the building to this day, and that is the death of a guest whose name has been lost to time but is known simply as the Red Lady. The Red Lady was believed to have lived at the hotel, providing a specific service for male clientele, the oldest trade in the world. The story goes that one of her clients saw her with another man and in a fit of jealous rage took her life. In some versions of the tale, she was strangled, in others she fell to her death from the 5th floor. But no matter what version you hear, it all ends the same way, with her spirit lingering within the hotel. Men will sometimes hear her disembodied voice whispering sweet things in their ears. Some have reported finding a pearl from her broken necklace under their pillows. You know what, that doesn't sound bad actually. I'll take a pearl and a seductive whisper, why not? Number 5, the Omni Grove Park Inn. You can find this lovely historic hotel in Asheville, North Carolina. For years, however, guests and staff alike have reported feeling the presence of a spirit simply known as the Pink Lady. The Pink Lady was a former guest at the hotel who unfortunately never left. She's often described simply as a pinkish, smoky haze, but will sometimes take on the form of a young woman in a pink ball gown. The story goes that the woman was the mistress of a married man and was staying in room 545, the room she's said to still haunt to this very day. She met her end falling from the 5th floor balcony to the 3rd. In some stories she was thrown, in others she jumped herself, but the Pink Lady sounds like a pretty fun ghost, to be honest. Some report their room being rearranged at night, lights turning on and off by themselves, and some have even woken up in the middle of the night with their feet being tickled. Never heard of a ghost doing that before, but I appreciate the creativity. Next up is the Emily Morgan Hotel in San Antonio, Texas. It's pretty obvious why this hotel is so supposedly haunted. From 1924 to 1976, the building was a hospital, complete with a morgue and crematorium. It didn't become a hotel hotel until 1984. Staff and guests have reported all sorts of strange phenomena going on here. You have your more standard ghost stuff, of course. Maids will clean a room only to come out of the bathroom to see pillows tossed onto the floor, doors opening and closing on their own. I'm sure people hear things. Sometimes the elevators will randomly stop at various floors for no reason. Some guests have said they've heard the phone in their room ring and then they've gone to pick it up. There's no one on the other end of the line. One story goes that a guest had returned to her room after dinner to find that her bathtub had been filled with blue water. Now that could be an outright lie, or a staff member just went into her room and had a bath while she was out. But there are a lot of other strange things that go on here. The creepiest reports are those related to the lingering spirits who met their end as hospital patients. Some claim to hear the sound of a hospital cart being wheeled down the hallway. The smell of antiseptic often wafts throughout the 14th floor, especially. There are also shadowy figures said to move across the walls with no visible source. Number 3, the Ancient Ram Inn. Now, unfortunately, you can't actually stay in this place now. The owner uses it as their home. Man, I'd love to get a room here. The place was built all the way back in 1145. That probably isn't super exciting for the Europeans in the audience or like anyone really outside of North America, but I don't think I've ever stepped foot in a place that old. Anyway, you can only imagine how much history surrounds this building. This place was actually built on the grounds of a 5,000-year-old pagan burial site. Reports of strange occurrences, including ghostly apparitions and disembodied voices, have been reported, and as to what spirit or spirits these voices belong to, one of the most famous legends involves a witch who was supposedly burned at the stake on the property at some point in the 1500s. There are also legends of a number of tragic events, such as human sacrifices that are said to have taken place within its walls. And number 2, we have, of course, the Cecil Hotel. The Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles has a notorious history marked by a series of incredibly grim events. It's become quite infamous for its association with criminal activity and unsettling paranormal occurrences. The 1940s saw the Cecil being linked to several unalivings, leading to its pretty blunt nickname. The hotel was also the temporary residence of the infamous Richard Ramirez during his horrific spree. One of the most well-known incidents in modern times was, of course, the case of Elisa Lam in 2013. Her mysterious death and that eerie elevator surveillance footage captured attention from everyone across the internet. And for all these reasons and more, many have claimed the building to be incredibly haunted. Reports of strange noises and ghostly sightings have been being claimed for decades. And lastly, we have the Langham Hotel in London, England, said to be one of the most haunted hotels in the country. The hotel was built in 1865, so a lot of guests have stayed at this place over the years, some of which have never left. There are said to be 5 primary ghosts that haunt this building. Some people apparently hear a baby crying at night. Well, I mean, I guess babies might stay at the hotel, but if it's just a disembodied baby voice, that's creepy. One primary ghost is that of a German prince who fell from his upper story window. Staff have reported seeing his ghostly figure moving through walls. His presence is also always accompanied by a drop in temperature. Room 333 is supposedly the most haunted room. One man, a BBC newscaster, woke up to see the ghostly figure of a man in Victoria-era evening wear. The figure hovered in the air. It had no legs. Classic ghost kind of look. The figure started floating towards the man with its arms out, as if it was going to grab him. In 2014, several English national team cricket players left the hotel in the middle of the night because of supposed paranormal activity going on in their rooms. They reported sudden, unexplained heat, their bathroom taps turned on by themselves, and they just had this uneasy feeling of a strange presence lurking in their rooms.
Okay, coming in at number 10 of the scary haunted Airbnbs, we have Laura's Cottage. Ooh, a haunted cottage, very spooky. So who is Laura and who is haunting her cottage? Well, it seems that Laura's cottage in Savannah is haunted by none other than Laura herself. Laura lived in the cabin, which dates back to 1799. Now, she lived there for 50 years, according to the Airbnb lister. If you want to know what Laura looks like, there is a picture of her on the mantelpiece. She looks like a lovely lady who I would very much enjoy having met before she died anyway. Meeting her as a ghost? I'm not so sure. It seems that guests at the cabin have come across Laura a number of times. One guest wrote that Laura visited on 3 occasions. They said that Laura made herself known to us on 3 visits. The first was by opening a downstairs window from the bottom up on one chilly morning. The window was locked. Soon after, she flickered the lights over the dining table and the bulbs were in nice and tight. They then said, on the coldest night of the year, you could smell wood smouldering like a campfire after water had been poured on it. It was on and off but so strong that we checked the cottage. Laura was telling us that we should keep warm. They said that they never saw or heard her, but they knew that she was there. For me, it sounds like Laura's very much a friendly ghost. Coming in at number 9, we have the Parks Bowman Mansion. I would love to go to New Orleans, and so I wouldn't even mind staying in this haunted mansion because I'd get to be there. That being said, it does freak me out. This is a 130-year-old mansion called the Parks Bowman Mansion. Ghosts are one thing, but little girl ghosts are the scariest. The owner of this otherwise lovely looking property, filmmaker Adrian Parks Bowman, says that the ghost is friendly if a little shy. The listing reads that she's a young girl in a yellow dress from the 1890s. The girl is thought to be one of the beloved 7 daughters from the home's 19th century owners. The ghost seems to exclusively haunt one bedroom. One guest said that they heard tiny footsteps dancing around the bed one evening. They said it sounded like a young person who had on a long skirt. They said they could hear what sounded like taffeta rustling on the ground. The ghost is benevolent, it seems. Adrian said that one guest experienced someone giving him mouth to mouth after a bad dream. Coming in at number 8, we have the Highlands Mansion. Don't we all love a bit of the Rocky Mountains? Beautiful. I would love to stay in a mansion there and just enjoy the atmosphere of this historic part of Denver near the Rockies. But wait, there might actually be more atmosphere here than bargained for. Unfortunately, the home was the scene of a nasty crime. In October 1970, 2 girls were victims of murder in that very house. 17-year-old Carla Lee Noche and her friend Marianne Weaver were murdered at the property. This was in the 2nd floor apartment that now is available on Airbnb. Now the listing even contains a newspaper cutting of the incident from the Rocky Mountains news publication. It seems the ghosts aren't too active these days though. The main thing guests seem to have focused on is the jacuzzi in the bedroom, which is, you know, always nice.
Moving on to number 7, Malaga Inn. Located in Alabama, the Malaga Inn is a charming historic property celebrated for its unique architecture, rich history, and of course that it's sure to provide a spooky haunted stay. Now obviously that's not everyone's cup of tea, so there are some rooms that are said to be free of wandering spirits, but if ghostly visitors are something you are interested in, then be sure to book room 007. Rumor has it that this room is home to a mischievous ghost of a woman in a white dress, and many visitors claim that the temperature in the room drops as soon as she enters. Now, that part you can fix with an extra sweater, so not so bad. But that's not all she is known for. Visitors claim the woman in white will lurk around the room all hours of the day, slamming doors and flickering lights, and some even say they witnessed the chandelier swinging from the ceiling. Let's just hope they are properly hung up there, otherwise that could be a big disaster. Moving on to number 6, Hobo Hill House. Located in Jefferson City, Missouri, this 5,000 square foot house is said to be haunted by a myriad of spirits, and according to everyone that stays, they waste no time making themselves known. From a full-bodied apparition of a man wearing a top hat to flickering lights and flying objects, you are sure to encounter a spirit or 2 or 6 during your stay. And while most seem to be pretty friendly, that doesn't mean that they all are. In fact, apparently the first group to rent after the owners put up their Airbnb listing didn't even last the entire evening. Now, that being said, there are many who adore that kind of thing and have had a blast staying in this haunted house with the spirits, so just be sure you are ready to hang with some spooky entities before you book a night here. Moving on to number 5, Parks Bowman Mansion. You'd be hard-pressed to find a building in New Orleans that wasn't haunted, and the Parks and Bowman Mansion is no different. Mostly. There are actually 3 rooms available to book in this 130-year-old Garden District mansion, but only one of them is said to be haunted. Per the listing, guests share the haunted bedroom with the ghost of a girl in a yellow dress from the 1890s who was buried on the property after a sudden death. Now, officially, the listing maintains that the ghost girl can be quite shy, and some say they haven't even seen her during their visit. But of course, that's not true across the board. Other reports claim the girl walks with a limp and may be found roaming the grounds while humming creepy lullabies. Either way, just make sure you don't mind being watched while you sleep, as you are almost certainly in store for that during your stay. Coming in at number 4, Civil War House. Not only is this historical Civil War farmhouse located in the notoriously haunted Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, but during the Civil War, the farmhouse and barn were used as a Civil War field, and the property was actually used as a makeshift hospital for the soldiers in the gruesome battle. So, safe to say, it's pretty haunted. And unlike some of the others on this list, the owner is not trying to keep that a secret. The Airbnb host admits to being the home's only living occupant, but that there are many others who live there with her. Now, she doesn't specify exactly how many other spirits roam the property, but it is advertised as being incredibly haunted, which probably means that there are tons of them. Now, the ghosts are purported to be friendly, but some visitors have had a different experience. Some claim that at night they have heard tortured screams of the soldiers so loud that it woke them up in the middle of the night. So if you do visit, maybe just bring a pair of earplugs. I mean, unless you want to hear the screams. It's your vacation, so, I mean, you do what you want. Coming in at number 3, Castello del Pazzo. Now, full disclosure, if you couldn't tell from the name, this listing is a full-on Italian castle, meaning that it is stunningly gorgeous and beautiful, but it will also cost you more than a few bucks to stay here. That being said, if you have some extra money to spend on a haunted visit, this would definitely be one to add to your list. According to legend, the ghost that haunts this castle was once a young woman named Barbara, who fell in love with an army captain named Matteo way back in 1467. But before the lovers could elope, Barbara's father found out about their affair and locked her in the tower of this very castle. Sadly, while she was locked away, her lover Matteo was being exiled to France. But poor Barbara, trapped in the tower with no ties to the outside world, had no clue he had been sent away and died in the tower waiting for him to return and rescue her. Today, visitors of the Castello del Pazzo say that they've seen Barbara looking out from the tower window, still waiting for Matteo to come back. And others say you can hear her screaming cries each night when he does not return. Coming in at number 2, the Stroud House. Built in 1940, the Stroud House in North Carolina has been in the family for several generations, and according to its listing, it's also been haunted for as long as, well, anyone can remember. According to several friends, family, guests, and the owners themselves, you will not be short on supernatural experiences during your stay. Those that have stayed report events including hearing footsteps in the hallway, lights turning on and off on their own, orbs in the living room, and a music box that appears as though it's magically playing by itself. But the scariest encounter you might run into is a shadowy figure that likes to hang out in the kitchen and dining room. Now, the good news is that so far, none of the activity has been reported as malevolent, so it doesn't seem like you're gonna run into any poltergeists while you're here, but there's always a first time for everything. And last up in our number 1 spot is Captain Grant's. This historic bed and breakfast dates back to 1754, when Captain Grant built a beautiful home for his family. The house, which is listed in the National Register of Historic Places, withstood the Revolutionary and Civil Wars, and like many buildings from its time, is well known for its overwhelming paranormal activity. Cause you know, lots of people died here. While there are said to be spirits all throughout the grounds, if you're looking for a ghostly encounter for your stay, the Adelaide room is the one you want to pick. While staying in this room, one guest reported having her face caressed by invisible hands, while another visitor claimed that a woman dressed in colonial era garb holding hands with young people could be seen wandering around the room. And for extra measure, just in case that doesn't sound spooky enough, there is a nearby cemetery and an underground crypt you can take an evening stroll over to for even more paranormal activity. But be warned, you never know what other spirits could be lurking in the shadows there.
We're starting off the list with Hotel Monte Vista in Flagstaff, Arizona. There is some disturbing stuff going on at this place, at least that's what I've read. This place is teeming with former guests who checked into the hotel and never left, having met gruesome ends. Their spirits are now lingering within the establishment. One ghost, or in this case a pair of ghosts, are two women who were thrown from the 3rd floor back in the day and now spend their time as ghosts attempting to strangle male guests in their sleep. One long-term guest in the early 80s had a strange hobby of hanging meat from the chandelier in his room. One day he was found dead in his room. That room is 220, and guests and staff report strange activity going on in the room. Some staff just veer clear of it completely. The TV is known to turn on its own. This even continued after the TV was replaced, and some report the feeling of being touched by a cold, unseen hand. Number 9, the Hotel del Salto. This Colombian hotel was first erected in 1923 and has quite the reputation. That's why it has its dark nickname, which I can't really say the name of here, but suffice to say, a good number of people have died here. This place is absolutely gorgeous, overlooking the Tequendama waterfalls, but legend has it that in order to prevent being captured by Spanish conquistadors, the natives of the area would jump from these very cliffs. During the hotel's operation, a good number of people took their lives there or would fall by mistake, and this picturesque building became steeped in sadness and despair. The building still stands today, now having been transformed into a museum, but some still say not to go near the property at night, as countless lost souls still roam the grounds. At number 8, we have the Hotel del Coronado. This beautiful San Diego hotel is known to have had some pretty famous guests like President Ronald Reagan and Katharine Hepburn, just to name a couple. But there's also one ghost who checked in and has never left. Her name is Kate Morgan, and she's been haunting the hotel since her death in 1892. Kate Morgan had checked into the hotel and spent a few days there before taking her own life. She'd had stomach cancer and was waiting for her brother, who was a doctor, to arrive and assist her with her illness, but he didn't show up, and she hadn't received any letters. Her spirit is said to roam the property to this day, still waiting for her brother to finally arrive, especially on the 3rd floor. Her room is frequently requested by paranormal enthusiasts. There's another ghost supposedly said to haunt the hotel though, an actress by the name of Isadore Rush, who drowned by the beach in 1904. Staff have reported seeing the lights turn on and off in her room that she'd been staying in, even when the room is empty. Course.
Filling at number 7 slot is the camera. Back in November of 2017, Derek Starnes and his wife rented out an Airbnb in Florida for their holiday. When they got there, they started unpacking and all was well until Derek looked at the smoke detector in their bedroom. Since he was employed in the tech industry, he was well versed in electronics and saw this hole on the side of the detector. So he took it down and inspected it, only to find a hidden camera inside of it. Shocked and disgusted, he took out the SD card and found another hidden cam in the living room as well. The footage showed the couple as well as other suspected victims. The Airbnb host, 56-year-old Nat, was arrested with 1 count of video voyeurism, which is a 3rd-degree felony. He claimed the camera was there for all consenting sex parties, and the police were like, okay, if that's the case and it's consensual, why were they hidden? Nat responded by saying it's a better camera angle that way, which is clearly bullshit. I just wanted to include one camera story on the list. I know there's so many Airbnb stories with hidden cameras, so I didn't want to include it, but I thought I should because people need to know that this is definitely a very common thing that you should be worried about. Now at number 6 is AJ. So back in August of last year, Canada's 4th most popular Airbnb superhost AJ was suspended after a CBC investigation found a bunch of listings under the exact same property but different names, all boosting each other's ratings. AKA AJ had all these accounts and was leaving fake reviews for himself so he could mislead guests. Now, despite being suspended, Airbnb had no comment on why they didn't warn guests who had already reserved with him. Stacey Lepierre had booked the charming old Montreal loft to find the house with disgusting floors, broken cutlery, and the bed chewed up by mice. None of the guests had ever met AJ as he had a text-only policy, but people found it odd how he had 3 accounts always giving him the same review. One account wrote the same thing 26 times in 1 month. Like, that is sus. Other guests complained of a house full of bed bugs and no heated water, and then more reviews started pouring in of smells, trash on the floor, broken windows, vermin, and looking like the houses were vandalized. Airbnb did nothing to compensate these guests, and now AJ has made new accounts under the names Barry and Arvin after getting suspended. Hashtag Stop AJ 2020. Coming in at number 5 is The Raid. Back in 2012, 2 roommates went on a month-long holiday and decided to rent out their Stockholm apartment on Airbnb so they could at least make some money while they were away. Good financial decision, girls. So far, so good. However, when the girls returned, they found a note on their door which said the police had raided their apartment for prostitution. When they went inside, they found used condoms everywhere, as well as pubic hair and other things fitting of a temporary brothel. The women had come from Dublin and were under police surveillance from the moment they set foot in Sweden. They looked extremely high class, so it was quite strange how they rented out an Airbnb when they looked like they could easily afford a 5-star hotel. The 2 girls were caught in the act by the police, and Airbnb put the renters up in a hotel till their home was professionally cleaned and sterilized and other things. You know, other things. And number 4 is The Garden. Back in 2016, a group of friends had rented an Airbnb for a birthday party in the town of Palaiseau, which was south of France. When they got there, they explored the house for a while to assess the party logistics, and then they made it onto the garden where they got a whiff of something disgusting. Was it a skunk? Was it one of their farts? It was neither. Following the scent, the friends found the decomposing body of a woman at the bottom of the garden. Her corpse was in this dugout area, and she was covered in branches and surrounded by wood stumps. She had no shoes on but was clothed and wearing a large ring. Because the body was so advanced in its decomposition, the cause of death was unknown, but foul play was definitely suspected. The homeowner, Emmanuel L., was on vacation with his family and had no idea about the body when he got the news, which I don't understand because I feel like renters usually visit their house every time a guest has checked out. So you're telling me Emmanuel never went to the house after a guest has checked out and gone to the garden to see this bloody decomposing body? Emmanuel, make it make sense because it's not adding up, my friend. Filling at number 3 slot are the stairs. This one pissed me off so much I can't even tell you. I hated it, but I felt like it had to be on the list. South African filmmaker Sabahale Nkumbi booked an Airbnb in Amsterdam for this exhibition she was writing an article on. Sabahale admitted that her and her friends were a bit late in checking out, but have a little leeway. Even hotels give you that. What's half an hour, come on. The Airbnb host can be heard shouting out now, and throwing her clothes and suitcases down the stairs. He goes on to say this is not Africa and for you people to get out. He then pushed her headfirst down the stairs and the whole thing was caught on video. You can see Sabahale's head slamming the wall and floor with her face, and she's just lying there motionless, and the dude has the bloody nerve to then come down saying out now while trying to wake up her unconscious body. Like, he just pushed her down the stairs. Do you think she's gonna get out right there? No, you idiots. Her friends come in and see her on the floor unconscious and obviously start crying. She later shared that his wife had come to tell them to get out, and she had said, can you please give us a few minutes just to pack and leave? And that's when the husband came in guns a-blazing. He grabbed her, and she even says in an interview that she knew he was going to throw her down the stairs. She was gripping onto the wall but eventually lost grip since it's a flat bloody wall. Next thing she remembers is waking up in the hospital with a concussion. Obviously the whole thing was racially motivated, and I find that absolutely disgusting. Now at number 2 are the Nights of Horror Part 1. This one freaked me out so much. Like, you really can't trust anyone at all, and the terror just kept on going with this one, so it has 2 parts, and believe me, you're gonna want to hear them. So in June of 2018, Boston couple Jaleesa Jackson and Chidozie Uwandu rented an Airbnb in LA for a week of relaxing and de-stressing. The Airbnb hosted by JJ had really good reviews to the point the site listed them as a super host, so that's usually meant to be the all you need to put your mind at ease. They got there and there was a chilled bottle of water welcoming them into the home. home. However, the holiday took a horrific turn that night at 5:30 AM when Jaleesa woke up to the sounds of someone banging on the door. A man was shouting, "I know you're in there, Kevin," and at this point I would have woken up my man and been like, "Please save us," because I cannot. But Jaleesa, girl power and all, opened the door and confronted the dude and told him to go away. She then quickly called the host JJ when the phone started ringing on the other side of the door. Their assailant was their Airbnb host JJ. All he said when he answered, still on the other side of the door, was, "Yeah, that was me. Sorry about the confusion. Life's too short for me to give you an explanation. Have a nice time in LA." What the hell, JJ? Are you on crack? You just had to break into your own Airbnb and you're like, "Life's too short to give you an explanation"? Are you on crack? I just find that really funny personally. And finally, at number 1 are the Nights of Horror Part 2. Miraculously, the couple decided to let their host's actions slide and continue to try and enjoy their holiday. They spent the next day at the beach and had a nice date in the evening before turning in for the night. At around 2 AM, a man came crashing through their bedroom window, sending window shards everywhere. Thankfully, Yuwandu jumped into action and pinned the assailant to the ground, and Jaleesa went to call the police when she recognized the man was none other than JJ again. JJ, baby, what is you doing? He somehow managed to free himself and ran out the door while the couple armed themselves with knives and barricaded themselves into the kitchen. Police eventually apprehended JJ, who told them he tried to evict the couple over cleaning fees, the snake. Then, in another turn of events, an elderly woman came to the house asking the couple who they were. Apparently, she had rented the place out to JJ, but he wasn't allowed to rent it to others. Obviously, the couple was refunded their money and offered more money as well as therapy sessions, but wow, what an experience. Also, what was JJ trying to accomplish? Was he trying to kill them? Was he trying to torture them, steal stuff from them? I'm very confused on what his modus operandi was. Let me know what you guys think.